lovely and darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy. This time I'm doing another book haul. This is adult fiction books that I bought within the last year, specifically May of 2018 to February of 2019. I stopped filming book hauls regularly and ended up with giant stacks of books. So I've sorted them into categories, so this is all just adult fiction books. So first up I have The Witches of Cambridge by Mina Van Praagh. This one follows a coven of witches, I guess, who are all involved in this university town of Cambridge. So most of them are professors. We've got a grad student in here, and there's a baker who lives in the town, and they can all do magic. It's not like Harry Potter magic where you point a finger and do a spell or use a wand. It's more like Wicca with using herbs and enchantments to create potions, and more of nature stuff. But also they can do levitation and magical stuff. I thought this was really interesting and fascinating. I was drawn to it because of the witches and the magic, and also chick lit, and I was not disappointed. So I have already reviewed this one, so I'll post the full review in the description below. Next up, I have The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is definitely a romance novel. It is Australian chick lit. It follows two assistants in this publishing company who both hold the same position. They are assistants to these co-CEOs, and they work in the same space. They have desks right across from each other, and they have this ongoing war happening between the two of them, where they are always playing pranks on the other one and grumbling and complaining about the other, going to HR and making accusations. This whole prank war going on between the two of them. Things change when a position opens up in the company that both of them want, so they both apply for it, and as they are competing and realizing that they're not going to be working together in the same capacity anymore, and also the prank war also ups the ante when they're applying for the same job. It's really interesting, really fascinating. It's got a really fun hate-to-love story. There are tons of pranks in here that are keeping it light. It also feels like a real organic relationship. It doesn't feel contrived. So I ate this one up. I love it so much. So much. Definitely recommend. Next up, I have two of Jill Mansell's novels, which I bought without even reading the book descriptions on them because I love Jill Mansell and she's one of my favorite chick lit authors. So the two books are Three Amazing Things About You and Falling for You. I didn't actually read the blurbs yet. So, Three Amazing Things About You. Hallie has a secret. Doesn't everybody? Hallie doesn't have long to live, and to make things even more complicated, she's in love with a guy who's seriously out of bounds. She's never going to let him know, of course. She's just going to enjoy every remaining moment of her crush. She's also determined to spend her last months helping those who write to her Dear Rose column with problems of their own. Her doctors can't fix her, but maybe she can fix a few other people's dilemmas before it's too late. All of our lives are full of choices, for better or worse. The amazing thing is how connected we all are in ways we don't even know. But only if we are truly lucky do we have the chance to see the ways we change each other's lives for the better. And then Falling for You's book blurb. It's Romeo and Juliet all over again. As a teen, Maddie Harvey was a bit of an ugly duckling. Luckily, she's blossomed since then. Maddie thanks God for this small miracle when a tall, handsome stranger comes to her rescue one starry summer's night. Instant attraction becomes a disaster in the making when Maddie learns the identity of her Superman, Keary McKinnon. Of all the colorful residents of the small Cotswold town of Ashcombe, why did it have to be him? Because as family feuds go, the Montagues and the Capulets have nothing on the Harveys and the McKinnons. Like I said, I didn't really need to know what these were about. I really love Jill Mansell's writing. Typically in these stories, there's several different plot lines going around, following different characters. Each of them has a different life stage or has a different problem, and they all intertwine, and they're all really fascinating. So I'm hoping that these two also keep that. They're also just adorable and sweet and light and just fun reads. So hoping these two also do that. I also got 12 Days, which is edited by Shelley Silas. This is a collection of short stories where each story is one of the 12 days of Christmas from The Christmas Carol. Writing in this by Val McDermott, Sophie Kinsella, Jake Arnett, Mike Gale, Patrick Neate, Stella Duffy, and more. This was a mixed bag. Some of the writing was really good. Some of it wasn't so good. Some of it just really resonated with me. Some of it just wasn't my kind of short story, so I wasn't going to like it no matter how good the writing was. So on the whole, I gave this like a 3 stars. Still debating whether or not I'm going to keep it, but it's hard to like sell a Christmas book in February. So that's a call to make in like September or October, whether or not I want to get rid of it. But some of these stories were really good. So like I said, I already read this one. That review is in the description below. I also have Love and Friendship, in which Jane Austen's Lady Susan Vernon is entirely vindicated. This is written by Whit Stillman and is based off of one of Jane Austen's unfinished stories, Lady Susan. I haven't read the original Jane Austen story, but I did watch the movie based off of this Love and Friendship and thought it was really quirky and funny. Also, I just really love Jane Austen, so I'm excited to get into this and find out more about it. So the plot of the story is that we have Lady Susan, who is recently widowed, and she has a daughter who's also coming of age. So she's trying to find husbands for both her and her daughter. However, her means aren't always socially acceptable and kind of gets her into trouble. So there's kind of this comedy of trying to avoid other women getting mad at them, but also trying to find their at least security in relationships, if not actually falling in love. I also have Loner by Teddy Wayne. Every time I pick up this book, I want to read it, but can't remember what the plot is. Okay, so summarizing the book blurb on this, it follows David, who is starting his freshman year at Harvard University after coming from a New Jersey high school where he like completely just blended in and nobody noticed him. But he gets a crush on one of his classmates, Veronica. Is instantly in love with her. But as the story comes around, there's some secrets about Veronica and David messing around with stereotypes, and I don't know why this book always looks so appealing to me. Honestly, I don't really know what it's about, but it just always seems to call me, so maybe I'll read it now that I own it. Also, I got it at a library book sale for like $1.25, so it's not like I spent a ton of money on this book. So give it a chance. Moving on from those more sci-fi type books, I found these two half-price books, and as soon as I saw them, I was like, this looks adorable. So these are both written by Neil Zawacki. Illustrations on The Villain's Guide to Better Living is by Phil Brown. Illustrations on How to Be a Better Villain, Evil Laughs, Secret Layers, and Master Plans and More are by James Dignan. Wow, both names I couldn't pronounce. So these are like guides to being a villain, and they so far look like they're tongue-in-cheek, quirky guides. I love reading stuff like this. I especially love villains. I think they're really underappreciated, and that they generally tend to have more fun than the heroes. I love kind of the dark Halloween aspect to them. How to Be a Villain takes you through all these different steps on like Chapter 1 is getting started with the forces of darkness. Chapter 2 is discovering the methods of your mayhem. 3 is thwarting the forces of good. 4 is tools of the evil trade. And 5 is making an evil plan. So they're just like little sections, quirky, funky guides to being a villain. I am super excited to go into these. Like I just bought this weekend, so I haven't really had time to look at these yet, but they looked super fascinating. The Villain's Guide to Better Living, it's here's this one's chapter page. Home design, health, work, social life, and traveling. This page is common ways, some common stains and ways to get them out, like getting out blood, acids, holy water, slime, and black hair dye. These look like they are going to be a ton of fun, so I'm excited for these. Unemployment for villains. Yeah, I'm excited about these guys. They look amazing. Next up, I have Zombie Ohio, A Tale of the Undead by Scott Kenemore. So there's a zombie outbreak, and trying to survive that, especially when you're on your own and like survival skills, it's fun. But also there's lots of gore, and I don't want to say it's fun like it's a lighthearted book. It's definitely like a zombie apocalypse story. But as an Ohioan, I thought it was fun to see all the places that I know from real life in this book. I also have Tales of Norse Mythology. This is by A and E Keary, and illustrated by C.E. Brock. This is a reprint of a book that was published as The Heroes of Asgard in 1857. So these are tales from Norse mythology, following Loki and Odin and Thor. I really love Norse mythology, so I'm excited to see what's in here. And this take, it's an older edition since it was written in like the 1850s, as opposed to more contemporary ones like Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology, like getting to see how it's evolved, or if it has evolved at all, our takes on these. So I'm excited. It's also got some cool looking illustrations, getting into that Viking feel. Really, really love Loki, guys. Like, a lot. Like, I'm obsessed with Loki as a character, both in the Marvel comics and movies, but also in the actual Norse mythology. So, okay. Definitely interested in this one. I also have Candide by Voltaire. This is a satire about the main character of Candide, who has a lot of really, really awful things happen to him in life, but he has this one philosophy that everything works out for the better, no matter what. Even if you're being tortured, it's all for the best, and we are in the best possible world we could be in. Events are taking the best possible course. Things might be bad now, but it's going to work out well later. He's also got this woman that he's in love with that they like meet, kind of fall apart as they go on different trails, kind of meet up again. His professor, his teacher, Dr. Planglass, is also a big part of this. It's just this fun, really short trip around Europe. Towards the end, it kind of started getting repetitive as he's... the bad things that were happening to him almost felt like they were repetitive. Like, you get into a new city and just end up in the same situation. But he does travel to, like, South America and then back to Europe, and just really goes everywhere. There's definitely an adventure aspect to it, while still being about philosophy and commentary on society and on other philosophers and religions. So it's really fast paced too, and it's pretty highly entertaining. It's only 113 pages in this edition, so quick read. I did actually mostly enjoy this, and I have reviewed it, so that review is in the description below if you want to know my full thoughts. I also have Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. This is like a big classic and had a huge impact on American history, just the fact that it was written. This is about a slave named Tom who is sold in the South, treated awfully, and it really just exposes how awful slavery was at the time. It wasn't something that was highly talked about, especially if you weren't in the South to know what was happening. Obviously, plantation owners don't want you to know that they're completely beating and whipping or starving their slaves. So really, pointed that out, and became a huge turning point in history. It's also a book that I have never read, so now I have it. Hopefully I will read it now that I own it. And then last up, I have several Agatha Christie mysteries, because I love Agatha Christie. So anytime I see some that I don't already own, I buy them, even if I haven't read the other ones yet. The Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. Just after midnight, the famous Orient Express is stopped in its tracks by a snowdrift. By morning, the millionaire Samuel Edward Rothschild lies dead in his compartment, stabbed a dozen times. His door is locked from the inside. One of his fellow passengers must be the murderer. Isolated by the storm, Detective Hercule Poirot must find the killer among a dozen of the dead man's enemies before the murderer decides to strike again. This one I read and reviewed recently. I really do love Murder on the Orient Express, and Poirot is like a great detective. So yes. The other ones I hadn't read before. They are The Murder at the Vicarage, The Seven Dials Mystery, and the Labors of Hercules. So, The Labors of Hercules. In appearance, Hercule Poirot hardly resembled an ancient Greek hero. Yet, reasoned the detective, like Hercules, he had been responsible for ridding society of some of its most unpleasant monsters. So, in the period leading up to his retirement, Poirot makes up his mind to accept just 12 more cases, his self-imposed labors. Each would go down in the annals of crime as a heroic feat of deduction. The Seven Dials Mystery. Jerry Wade had proven himself to be a champion sleeper, so the other housemates decided to play a practical joke on him. 8 alarm clocks were set to go off, one after the other, starting at 6:30 a.m. But when morning arrived, one clock was missing, and the prank then backfired with tragic consequences. For Jimmy Tessinger, in particular, the word 7 dials were about to take on a new and chilling significance. I don't know what the word 7 dials normally mean, but... And the last one is Murder at the Vicarage, the first Miss Marple mystery, one which tests all her powers of observation and deduction. Anyone who murdered Colonel Prothero, declared the parson, brandishing a carving knife above the joint of roast beef, would be doing the world a large favor. It was a careless remark for a man of the cloth, and one which had come back to haunt the clergyman just hours later, when the colonel is found shot dead in the clergyman's study. But as Miss Marple soon discovers, the whole village seems to have had a motive to kill Colonel Prothero. Alright, that was my massive haul of all the books that I got that were adult fiction within the last several months. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these and either loved or hated them. Like I said, the complete list of books is in the description below, as well as links to any that I have already read and reviewed. Peace out. I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye.